you very much for the nice introduction. Really appreciate that. It's wonderful to be back here again in Algeria. Before I start with my speech, I just want to say thank you very much for the great leadership here in Algeria. President Bouteflika, Prime Minister Envoy, Salam, and Minister of the Environment, the Chairman, and so many others, especially my R20 team, our President Michel Saban, our Executive Director Christophe Natal, and our new Director for Algeria, Rahim Bissau. I really want to thank also all the ministers from Africa here that came from far away to join us here at this conference. It is fantastic to see so many great leaders here in this hall. And I also love when I watch and look at you of how much energy there's out there. As a matter of fact, if we would hook up everybody in this hall here to the grid, to the power line, I think we could light up the whole continent of Africa. So give yourself a hand for this great enthusiasm. I also want to say that I love Algeria. When I look at this great country, all the great things that are happening here, I'm in awe, I'm inspired. And of course, I have great memories of my last trip here to Oran last June. What a wonderful time we had, a great reception of a great powerful treatment and celebrations. But it wasn't just celebrations, we had also some important meetings about the environment. Especially remember the great meeting I had with Prime Minister Salam. I mean, what a great leader, what a great visionary. And this is why when he took me to the airport, I said, I'll be back. Now, I'm back. I kept my promise. And I'm back for a very important reason. I want to talk about the environment, because our challenge of protecting our planet for the next generation is bigger and bigger than ever. Every day our population grows, and every day we pump more pollution into the atmosphere. The world population is now at 7 billion, and in 14 years they say it will be at 8 billion. You know what that means? It means that there will be more people buying cars, more will be producing waste, more and more people will be using energy, and therefore more and more people will be polluting. There are two paths, of course, to protect our environment. One is to conserve energy. Conservation is a very, very important subject. And the other is creating green energy. We need to do both. Now, when I grew up in Austria, I learned very quickly about conservation, because I grew up after the Second World War, where there was nothing around. Not much food, not much money, not much electricity, and not much drinking water. As a matter of fact, we were taught very early on then already that whenever you leave the room, you turn out the lights. Whenever you leave the house, you turn out all the lights. When it comes to water conservation, of course, we learned very quickly, because we did not have running water in our house or flushing toilets. So we had to get the water from the well approximately 300 yards away. And my brother and I, when we were little, we had to carry those buckets of water home, those 300 yards in the snow, in the rain, in the summer, in the winter. And so we all washed ourselves from the same water. I remember my mother filled the sink with warm water, and she washed herself, she bathed herself. Then it was my father's turn, then it was my brother's turn, and I was the last, being the youngest. At that time, I think the water was already a little murky. But I was not about to put fresh water in there, because I would have had to carry it for 300 yards. So this is why I learned very quickly. And we didn't create the piles and piles of plastic bags and waste. My mother used a fishnet type of a shopping bag that she pulled out of her purse. And she used it for 10 years, the same bag. She always pulled it out of her purse, and then she opened it up and it stretched, and then she put the groceries in there. She carried it home, she unpacked the groceries, and then put the little bag, folded it up, put it back in her purse. So I learned very early on that you can't live a full life using conservation without creating much waste or destroying the environment. So I remember that. The day all over the world, our task in fighting climate change, in conserving energy and water, managing our waste and reducing our pollution is daunting, and it is growing exponentially every minute that you wait. It is an enormous challenge. But the good news is that we have already solutions at hand. The technology is already available. Last year in California, I hosted a Zero Waste Summit. The aim of the Zero Waste Summit was to come up with solutions that waste is used as energy and as a resource to create new industries, new jobs, and new technologies. Zero waste means looking at those plastic bags on the street and seeing not garbage or waste, but to see a source of energy. In European countries, deliberately are running out of garbage as they find new ways to recycle and to use waste for energy. There is a huge market for trash. And this brings me, of course, to the important work that is happening right here in Oran today. Last year, the R20, which is our environmental organization, and the Algerian government signed a very ambitious cooperation agreement on developing a green economy in the whole region. This agreement covers the reduction and recycling of waste and the management of sludge, which all will help to improve the environment, but at the same time create new green jobs. In addition, in the next 3 years, the R20 and Oran are working on LED lights, street lights, to cut down the usage of electricity, energy-efficient buildings, the manufacturing of solar panels, and the creation of power from the solar panels, just like we've done in California through the Billion Roof Initiative. To me, this means one extremely important thing. Algeria has a great vision of a renewable energy future, and they're taking the right steps to turn this vision into reality. So I want to congratulate all the members of the Algerian government for their great leadership in creating a sustainable energy future. And I want to thank their leadership in general for doing such a great job. Let's give them a big hand for the great work that they're doing. Our projects in Algeria are all about action, 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 moving things forward in a big way. But we don't want to just stop here in Algeria. We want all of Africa to do the same thing. And that's why we are all here today at this Green Energy Conference. I want all of you to join us in that crusade. We need to bring together, as you've heard in previous speeches, national governments, regional governments, community organizations, corporations, the financial institutions, educational institutions. Everyone has to come together. This is something where we need synergy to create strong green economies all over Africa. It is all about having a vision, then following through with that action, just as you've seen here in Algeria. Now, when I was governor of the state of California, I promised myself that I would protect the environment and continue the tradition of California. Of course, there were the doubters at the beginning that said, it won't happen. That Schwarzenegger is just making campaign promises. He's a Republican, he's a conservative. They never want to do anything for the environment. Well, I've heard the doubters in the past. When I was a kid and I wanted to be a bodybuilding champion, they said it can't be done, and I proved them wrong. When I wanted to get into movies to be a leading man, they said it can't be done, and I proved them wrong. The same was when I ran for governor, they said he has no experience, it can't be done, I proved them wrong. And also this time I proved them wrong. Because let me tell you something. When it comes to the environment, there is no such thing as ideology. There is no conservative air or liberal air. We all breathe the same air. There is no liberal or conservative water. We all drink the same water. So this is why we must work together. That's exactly what we did in California. We all work together. The public sector, the private sector, all the political parties, the community organizations, universities and businesses, oil companies, everyone came together in order to make this happen. Even though we didn't always get the support from Washington, from our federal government, but we proved in California that subnational governments can also be very powerful. That's why in California, our state is 40% more energy efficient than the rest of the United States. As a matter of fact, if the rest of the United States would do the same thing and would be as energy efficient as California, we could literally close 75% of our coal-fired power plants. And to just show you how much that is, it's an equivalent of taking 188 million cars off the road. In California, we showed the power of the state and subnational government, and because of that, we were able to do great things. Look what we've accomplished. We created more renewable energy. As a matter of fact, by the year 2020, we will have almost half of our energy come from renewable sources. And then we made our buildings more energy efficient. And we made a commitment to reducing our greenhouse gases by 25% by the year 2020 and by 85% by the year 2050. And we are building the largest solar plants and the largest wind farms in the world. So great stuff has happened. And at the same time, of course, I'm very happy to say that we are building a green economy. We created jobs, not just protecting the environment, but also building the economy. As a matter of fact, the green sector has produced 10 times more jobs than any other sector in California. And investors are pouring money into our state. 67% of all the clean tech, the venture capital, is coming to California. And now think about that. 67% of the United States investment on green tech is coming to California, even though California only represents 10% of the population of the United States. So I'm proud that our green economy has been booming. And when I finished my term as governor, I was two-time governor of California, and I finished my last term. I said that I'm finished with my office, but I will never be finished with my crusade to fight for a clean environment. I will continue on with that crusade. I will continue on to spread the clean technology to all over the world to protect the environment. This crusade is one of the first crusade, so I know how hard it is to get something going and to make something work, and how long it takes. Remember that I've been part of the fitness crusade for the last 45 years. When they talked about everyone has to train, everyone has to exercise, everyone has to lift weights, and people said, you're crazy, it would never happen. But look what happened today, 45 years later. Every hotel has a gymnasium, and more gymnasiums all over the world than ever before. Every military base, every police station, every fire station, every sports club, every athlete is using weights. There's more weights being sold for home gym equipment. I mean, it's extraordinary, the explosion of food supplement sales and all of those things. So the crusade is working. It's successful. And the same thing I want to accomplish also with our environmental crusade. We just all have to work together. Now, I want everyone to know that the benefits of green energy. This is what I'm doing. This is why I travel around the world to talk and give speeches and seminars on this subject. I want everyone to know that they can accomplish what we did in California, or what they're doing already all over Europe, or Brazil, or the Middle East, and all over the world. There are great success stories. There's also great work being done on an international level. As we count down to the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, there is great hope that the world can reach an international climate agreement, where every country comes to an agreement and makes a commitment to reducing greenhouse gases. Believe me, I hope that there's an international agreement as much as anyone does. And if anyone can bring all of the nations together, it is the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who is a great leader and a great visionary. I love that guy. He's so passionate about the subject. And by the way, I want to urge all of the African countries to make their voice heard in this international debate. But let's not be frozen. Let's not forget that something like that, such a great undertaking, takes sometimes time. It doesn't happen from one day to the next. It can happen next year, it can happen in Paris in 2015, or it could maybe happen 5 years later. So in the meantime, let's not be frozen and stop and just wait for that. Let's move forward. We have to recognize that there isn't just one path to a clean energy future. There are many ways to get us there. This is why we have created the R20, our international environmental organization, to go and let the countries, and the states, and the cities, and local governments know that they should move forward, inspire them, and make them do the same thing as we have done in California. Because we must move forward, not just at the national or international level, but at the subnational level, states and provinces and cities, and the private sector, the academic sector, the non-profits, individuals. We have to bring everyone into this movement. and get everyone excited and get everyone to participate. We want everyone from the grassroots level up to flex their tremendous power, to flex their muscles. So we should not be defined by our, we should be defined by our movement and by our action, but not by our hesitation. If we do this, we can fight climate change in two directions, from the top down and from the bottom up. And one day the two will meet in the middle, we will create a critical mass. Don't forget that all great movements started from the grassroots level up. Doesn't matter if you're talking about the women's suffrage movement to give women the right to vote in America, or if you're talking about the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, or if you're talking about the Indian independence movement, or even your own fight for independence right here in Algeria. It all started from the bottom up, from the grassroots level up. Those great things don't ever come from the capital, it always comes from the people. So I strongly believe that the whole continent of Africa is now ready to move to a green economy. The African nations can learn from the mistakes that were made in the West, the mistakes that were made in Europe, the mistakes that were made in America, by relying too much on the dirty fossil fuels. As a matter of fact, to be honest with you, oil and coal have fueled development in the West for 100 years, for a century. And yes, it contributed to the Industrial Revolution, but we are now paying the price. We polluted air and polluted water. Kids are having asthma, the elders with lung cancer, and even wars are being fought to get our next fix on fossil fuels. How many more millions of people have to die in order for us to get the message that something has to be done, and how many mistakes we have made? In America alone, more than 100,000 people die every year because of pollution-related illnesses. I mean, just think about how many that is. That is more than from car accidents, from murders, suicides, wars, and all of this combined is not as much as the people dying from pollution. Africa is in a powerful position to leapfrog past our mistakes and to pass over our polluting fossil fuel addiction, just as you have done with the cell phones, instead of investing in expensive landline systems. I remember the last time I was here in Algeria, I saw people running around with cell phones, making phone calls, texting, taking pictures. As a matter of fact, I talked to this one person, he had 2-3 cell phones. And every street corner had all these billboards advertising different data plans. Because the costs have dropped, almost everyone now can afford a cell phone. And this is exactly what we want to do with green energy. We want everyone to participate, because the more people buy in on this, the cheaper it will get. I want to make green energy as sexy and as hip as cell phones are. I want the nations of Africa to know that the real action is in leapfrogging the fossil fuels and going straight for the green energy action. A green economy is a strong economy, and it's a sustainable model for growth. You in Africa can take control of your energy resources. You can become energy self-sufficient, and you can protect the environment of this beautiful, beautiful continent. I have to tell you, I love Africa, and I was very fortunate that I've been coming to Africa since the time I was 19 years old, because one of my great heroes by the name of French lived in South Africa. And he was a bodybuilding champion, and he was a Hercules in the movies, so he was always my idol. So I visited him from the time I was 19 on and learned from him in order for me to become a champion. And so I visited him many, many times, and on the way to South Africa I stopped in different countries to get there and to learn about different countries in this great continent. As a matter of fact, just last Christmas, before Christmas, I went to the bookstore, and there's this beautiful book on Africa. I mean, the gorgeous photographs of animals and landscapes and everything. I didn't only just walk out with one book. I bought a book for all of my friends to give it to them as Christmas gifts, to share with them how beautiful this continent really is. So I'm confident. That the people of Africa have the willpower to move to a new era, an era of a green economy that is powered by green energy and by zero waste. Let's not forget that Africa is the green continent. Now I know that many would say this is just all a dream. This is impossible. Because we in Africa, we don't have the same infrastructure as in California. We don't do things the same way as they do in America. But let me just tell you, terminate the word impossible. Let's get rid of this word. Impossible doesn't exist for us. It's an excuse to stay on the sideline. I believe what Nelson Mandela said. He said that it always seems to be impossible until someone does it. Well, you know something? People are already doing it. They're doing it all over the world. Our green movement has begun. You can find people doing the impossible and making it possible right now. Don't forget that we're already moving towards a sustainable energy future. But we all have to work together. I want to ask you, Africa, to be part of this great crusade, part of this great movement. Thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you for your attention.